Peace and light that old guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe. Instagram, YouTube. I'll show you where I am this morning. Like, share, subscribe. Nearly 500 subscribers. Check this out here. There's Montague Island out there. See? And that's heading south over to Carter's Beach. Beautiful morning here on the south coast. I'm just sitting here quietly contemplating what happened and how I'm going to go about doing this video. I've done a couple of these on the same subject and I've had a tremendous response from them, and my inbox has been full and I've been busy since about 4 o'clock this morning answering messages, so I haven't got back to you. Please forgive me. I'll get there eventually. It just takes a bit of time. We learnt overnight of the sad passing of the 95-year-old nursing home resident Clare Nowland, who was tasered by police in her nursing home up in Coomera on the inland from Bega. It's a really tragic case for a lot of reasons, and if I touch on things here today, then at least hear me to the end, because I'm not going to defend the policeman involved, but I'm going to explain a couple of things that I think have contributed to this situation. And if I'm wrong, correct me. I'm happy to debate with you. For those of you who aren't familiar with the case, and you'd have to be under a rock or from overseas, we had an elderly resident in a nursing home. She was 95 years old. At 83 or 85, she went skydiving, and I even watched that video back then and thought, wow, isn't that amazing? And then my son and I had been skydiving up in Wollongong, and I recommend it. I'm telling you, oh, jump the beach. Woo. Anyway, so Clare Nowland got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make some toast, as you do, as I often do, in a nursing home, aged care facility up in Coomera, and skeleton staff on that time of the morning. And she had, they're saying a steak knife, but it wasn't. I can tell you for a fact it was a bread and butter knife, but it had serrated teeth. You know the ones, you know how the one's shorter than the other because it's a bread and butter knife, and the steak knife's longer, you know the one? It's still a bread and butter knife. It's not a steak knife. They're using that kind of verbal imagery to justify the actions of the police, and there's no justification at all. But it sounds better. You know, she came at me with a steak knife. Sounds much better than she came at me with a bread and butter knife, you know? That's the kind of play on words that they like to use. But anyway. Clare Nowland, when she was tasered by the police, suffered horrific brain injury from the fall. She was 43 kilos, and she was never going to survive that incident at all. The police involved, or the policeman involved, had 10 years service at least anyway in the police force, so he's no novice. He'd been around for some time. Now, they were called along with other people. I think there might have been paramedics or somebody came along, some healthcare workers of some sort, to the nursing home, because the staff didn't know what to do. Now I've got to explain something about that three sets of people: healthcare workers, police, and staff. Around the world now, we're wrapped in red tape, wokeness, inclusivity, diversity, acceptance, tolerance, all this OH&S stuff, whatever, workplace safety, you name it, it's all there. To the point where most people in many jobs are simply crippled. Police are overrun with paperwork and red tape. Gone are the days when they were just policemen. Gone are the days when they could have gone to that nursing home, taken his police hat off, walked around to the lady, put his arm around her and said, come on darling, let's go and have a cup of tea, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? They can't do that anymore. So I don't know what went on in that policeman's head, only he knows that. But you can guarantee there would have been a hell of a lot of scenarios running through his head from lots of woke training that he's had and lots of seminars he's had to listen to and directions and instructions he's been given. And he took the action that was fatal. And I'm sure he regrets it. I can't ever for 1 minute think that he enjoyed the fact of what he did, but I'm sure he regrets it now and wished he'd had taken some other course of action, but it's a little too late. He was charged yesterday with grievous bodily harm, common assault, with various charges, and I can only assume that since her death overnight, that'll be upgraded to manslaughter in the coming days, if not today. Now, I don't have any sympathy for the man. I really don't. I've said that from the outset, and I'll stand by that. I'm always a great advocate of innocent until proven guilty. The problem is that we've got a situation here that was so well recorded, and everybody knows exactly what happened, and there were so many witnesses that the case has written itself. Now, I'm sure he'll have a defence attorney, and he'll say, you know, as the area commander did, oh, she was coming at me with a steak knife. Remember that interview? And he said, albeit slowly. She was on a bloody Zimmer frame at 1.2 kilometres an hour. Had dementia, 43 kilos, 95 years old, and the copper chose to restrain her by using lethal force. Now, we know now that that's illegal. They can't use that on elderly people, and they certainly can't use it in a situation where the resulting actions of that use of force could lead to injury. Now, we saw the old guy in Sydney there a few months back. Do you remember him, who got tasered by police? I'm not sure what happened to him because I got distracted with other news. But he was in hospital with an aneurysm of some sort or whatever. He was in his 80s, and the bloody coppers knocked him to the ground. Remember that one? There's been so many incidents, and I have to say that over the last 3 years at least, my trust of the police service has fallen to an all-time low. They have no credibility in my eyes, particularly people like the AFP. And I was part of that group in Canberra, of which there were well over 800,000 people. not the 2,500 people the police, the media portrayed. And the thousands upon thousands who sent in photos and recorded sicknesses and radiation poisoning, and I was one of the ones who suffered that. Super burnt lips, burnt mouth, burnt tongue, scalded inside my cheeks. Horrendous, sick for days. No, not flu symptoms, just sick. And that was after we were attacked, basically, by the AFP with terrorist weaponry, including the machines that they had mounted on the top of the Land Cruisers. Just horrendous things. And we saw what the police did down in Victoria when they opened fires on women and children and parents and teachers and chefs and whatever else who were marching and protesting the laws. They opened fire with rubber bullets. Never seen before in Australia's history, just horrendous scenes. So no, I've come to realise, sadly, that the police are no longer a force that has honour and integrity at heart, but they are merely an extension of the government, a bully boy, corrupt organisation whose boss is the government. They are not upholding their own laws and their own jurisdictions. They're no longer doing that, you know? And that's a sad situation to be in. I find the whole case abhorrent. And I understand that he's going to have a defence attorney, and he'll try to explain why he did what he did. And I guess we're all waiting to hear his own reasoning or what he says. And sadly, and it's not me. If you know me, you know it's not me. Sadly, as I said in my previous video, I've run through 1,000 scenarios in my head, and I can't find one that absolves this man or justifies or condones his actions. I just can't. And my heart goes out to the family. I hope they do sue the police force. I really, really do. But money's never going to bring back their mother, grandmother, auntie. It's not going to happen. What I would call for, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, is for the sacking of Police Commissioner Karen Webb. Now, Karen Webb has handled this entire matter in the most disgusting way. She had a one-on-one interview with a TV reporter, one-on-one, sitting on a chair. And he questioned her and said, why have you spoken to the police officer involved? No, that's her boss. She didn't even call him into the office, didn't speak to him. Have you seen the video? No, I haven't. The body cam footage? No, I haven't. Why haven't you seen it? I don't need to see it. Why don't you need to see it? Because I don't have to. My other officers have told me about it, and I don't need to see that video. So if she doesn't see the video, it's a political move. She can't be questioned about it. They can't question her over it, because all she can keep saying is, I haven't seen the video. I haven't seen it. And that just disgusts me. It really, really does. Frickin' seagull. I'm on the beach. So anyway, I think she should be stood down. I think she should resign. I just find her handling of this situation to be just the most disgusting effort on her behalf, that she would sit there. I remember the reporter saying to her, why didn't someone just throw a blanket over the lady? And she said, oh, everybody's got ideas of what they could and shouldn't do. Well, they couldn't throw a blanket over because that's OH&S, and there's all these policies in place, and there's woke policies and all sorts of policies in there that they've got to follow, and procedures. And they can't just be police anymore. They can't. There's no humanity in it. That's the point I was making, even about in Canberra. There's no humanity anymore. These people are just almost like thugs and robots. They're just doing their job. And I know there's good people amongst them. I'm really, really, really aware of that. There are good people among them. They're not all the same. But the problem is, when it was a minority before, it's now become a majority. And the minority are the good ones. That's the problem that's taken place now. That's why we've lost over 4,500 police officers due to the mandates and policing procedures. They just can't deal with it anymore. That's why we've lost over 45,000 healthcare workers who walked off the job because of the mandates and the procedures that are now in place, which are so ridiculous and so involved that they can no longer cope with the situations that's before them. So anyway, we'll keep abreast of this and make sure we know when it comes up. I'm quietly confident the charges will be changed now that she's passed away to manslaughter. And let's just hope justice is done. Let's hope the family gets some kind of resolution out of this. Nothing will bring back their mother, or their grandmother, auntie, as I've said. I understand that. But somebody has to be responsible, and this has to bring about a change. It has to be an awakening call for Australia and to the police themselves. There has to be an awakening. They've got to realise now, look, enough's enough. I don't know when enough is enough. You know, you split children's heads open with rubber bullets, and women and children in Victoria. You radiated us in Canberra. You know, you've tasered people all over the place, knocked them to the ground because they didn't have a mask on. All sorts of things. I mean, seriously, when do you stand up and go, you know, enough's enough? When do we have faith restored in our police force? It's a big call. We know what's coming. We can hear the thunder on the hills. We know that this is just the beginning, that there's more to come. They were just preparing us as a trial run for what's about to happen. But we still can't just stop living. We still can't stop believing and hoping and praying and wanting. We can't do that. We have to continue believing that humanity can rise above all this. I won't ever let go of that. As I've said to many, 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 many people, if I did not believe that good is going to triumph over this evil, I couldn't live any longer on this planet. I just couldn't. But I have hope, and I'm here because I believe good will triumph over this evil. Peace and light. That old guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button, and you'll know when I'm doing a video.